Hi everybody, how are you doing today? Hope you are all doing well. Whatever day you are watching this, we are back for another Craft With Me video, and once again I thought that it would be best to do a knitting video because of the topic that I have for discussion today. So I hope you're all doing well. I think I said that once already. I'll probably repeat myself a few times. I don't know. Sometimes whenever I'm doing these, I just repeat myself multiple times. But that's okay because that's okay. So I today am knitting on my sock that is currently in production. This is the Stroll Elliot, I believe is what it's called. That's what it will look like. That's the design. I am working my way down the foot, and so it's nice, even, round and round and round. I have a stitch counter here that I nicely borrowed from work. This is a, when I did a Google or an Amazon search or a Etsy search for stitch counter, knitting row counters or stitch counters, they're the exact same things we use at work for data collection counters. I'm like, well, why would I was thinking that there were going to be some special thing, because I know a lot of them are like the ones that you put on the finger, you wear on your finger, and it's nice and easy there, and it's a digital thing. Well, these are ones that we've had at work, and they've been sitting around and sitting around. So I borrowed one so I could easily count the stitches going up one foot. So then whenever I do the second foot, I know exactly how many rows I need to do for the next foot, instead of having to sit there and count them whenever I'm all done. So I decided to borrow that for this socket to see how I like it, and if I want to go ahead and buy one on my own. I just got home from work and went ahead and changed my clothes. It's Friday afternoon, so I thought I'd go ahead and get this filmed, because tomorrow, probably while you are all watching this, I will be doing my homework for the week. So I know I got lots of compliments and comments on going back to school for this semester, and we're surprised that I'm going back to school again, and that I can't believe you're going to be working full time and going to school full time. I just wanted to clarify that going back to school full time means I'm taking 2 master's courses. For me, that's full time. I have actually worked full time, as well as taken up to 5 master's level courses at one time. So this to me is pretty much a cakewalk. It should be fairly straightforward and not too complicated. It's been a year or so since I've taken any courses, so it might take a while to get back into the routine. But I think once I set down a routine, I should be pretty good to go, and I will be, you know, I only have 4 courses I have to take. So once I get this semester done in May, I will be halfway through and ready to go, or ready for the other 2 courses. My goal is to take the other 2 courses during the summer session, and then I will be 100% done with the program and get my supervisor certification in New Jersey. I'm not sure if that's going to happen just due to I don't know how the availability of courses is going to fall for the summer yet. I have to wait and see how registration of the courses will occur whenever we can register later on this spring. But I'm hoping to not have to wait around too long to get this program done, and then I can just have it behind me, and then I can move on from that. So there we go. I am going to get a coffee break. I will be right back, and there might be a video ad play while I'm gone. Okay. Today's topic I thought we would discuss is one that came up in comments from last week, and it came from a male stitcher. So I did not look up the name, sorry. Not sorry. But I decided that it would be a good conversation to have while I was sitting here knitting. And the question basically was, and this is paraphrasing because I didn't pull up the comment, but the question was, what kind of reactions do you get whenever you talk about your craft to friends, family, whatever, being a male? And or do you talk about your craft, cross stitch knitting, etc., to friends, family, colleagues, coworkers, because you are a male? I have, for the longest time when I first got back into cross stitching, I was very hesitant to talk about what I did with coworkers and with friends. Of course, my family knew. My very, very close friends knew what I was doing. But coworkers and acquaintances and people that I knew but didn't really know, like they weren't high priority in my life, I was very hesitant to talk about it because I didn't know what kind of stigmas there were around on that kind of, I didn't want to go there. I didn't want to approach the subject, especially being that knowing the typical reputation of being a grandma hobby. I wasn't worried about being teased because I'm very comfortable with what I do and everything, but I just didn't want to go there. I wasn't ready to go there yet. As I got more comfortable with my and then as I got more, Yes, and we're talking about just about the stitching, not necessarily about the YouTube channel. As I got more comfortable with stitching and more comfortable with my quality of stitching, I think I got more confident talking about it. And so because of that, I'm very open about what I do. And I talk about it to pretty much anybody I come in contact with. If I think they would be interested in knowing that part about me. I also think because I have a small business of designing, that also is a benefit to me because I can talk about that. So the reactions that I get, initial reactions that I got from coworkers and such, dependent upon the person that was hearing about it. Some of the people were very, very impressed and thought it was really neat that I was doing such a different thing that, you know, they hadn't really ever really heard about for years and years and years because they didn't think people did that anymore. And to this day, I still have conversations about cross stitch and knitting to some of my closest coworkers because they do similar type activities. They don't cross stitch, but they knit. And and then some of my closer coworkers that I knew I would get teased from about it, especially the men, they still tease me about it, but in a lighthearted, good way. But I think especially more so just because I'm a guy. And now I'm throwing this out there. I know there's going to be those people that want to comment and say, "It's about time you're a guy. Now you know what it's like to be in a to know what women feel like in a man's world." I get it. Um, I completely understand. I know where you're coming from. You don't need to make those comments because at the same time, that's not that I'm not going there. I'm not going there. This is completely perspective as far as a man in a predominantly female craft. There still is those stereotypes that crafting, and I think it's crafting in general, is a feminine, and I think this is definitely a Western ideal, that crafting in general is a feminine activity or hobby. And especially if a needle is involved, regardless of what kind of hobby it is. So while I at first was hesitant to talk about it, I think as I got more comfortable with myself and the more I talked about being a cross stitcher and knitter, the more confident I was that I didn't care what other people thought, especially those men out there that would tease you because who cares? They do things that I think is funny and weird, and why would you ever do that? So, you know, we all have to be confident and comfortable in our own skin and not let the things that other people think and say and feel bother us. Because who cares? As long as it brings you happiness, then I'm not going to let that bother me as far as what other people think. And then now, because when I show them the projects that I work on, they're typically they're impressed because of the types of projects that I work on. And I'm sure it would be the case for anything I worked on. You know, I mean, as simple things like the planets that are right there are just as impressive as something like Henry. So, and you know, those took a matter of a couple hours to stitch. So again, I think we need to put things into perspective as far as do we really care what people think as before, you know, if it's going to bother us as far as their response whenever we tell them. And I think the more guys that come out and talk about it, the more natural and comfortable it's going to be for everyone. You know, I think knitting has become much more universal because there's a lot more male knitters out there. There's a lot of male knitting podcasts and YouTube channels. So, you know, it can only get better with a greater population being represented. I don't know, just my thoughts. I hope that answered the question that I was posed. I feel like my thoughts were kind of all over the place, but I do think sometimes my thoughts are all over the place with that just because I care, but I don't care what other people think. But as I've talked more and more about it with people around me, they have become much more supportive and are often asking me how's my hobbies going, how are the projects going that I'm working on. They ask for pictures and updates, and you know, my boss has my quotes to live by project in her office, and I'm able to point that out that that was one of the projects that I worked on, and I send them down to her office, and you know, things like that that really I think help educate people on the finer qualities of needlework. So today at work, I have to tell you this story. Today at work, we had, you know, I work in a school where we are constantly trying to teach students independent skills. The majority of our students have staff one-to-ones, paraprofessionals, and in the department that I primarily focus with, we are trying to fade that staffing as much as possible before graduation so that they are prepared for not having as much staff support as after graduation. So today we had an individual go to the microwave to heat up his breakfast, and I think he put the food in for a little bit too long. And so we ended up having a bit of a mishap where we had to call the fire department. Luckily, there was no fire, and I was able to put out the smoke from this from the food that was inside, but I was covered in smoke residue and smell, and I actually ended up having to come home and shower before my next meeting. So that was quite interesting. 2 days are never alike whenever you work with the population I work with. But I absolutely love it. Needless to say, we need a new microwave. So how is everyone's socks going? If you're knitting a sock along with me today, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. I've been creeping in on the Facebook group, and yes, I have been a horrible social media person yet again this week. I have really been just kind of minding my own business and doing my own thing and not really paying too much attention to the social medias and what others are doing, just trying to focus in on me and again my personal goals that I have set for myself this year. Part of that is really to focus on what I'm spending, and I think minding how much I spend on social media is really going to help with that, because I won't be tempted to buy. I can't say that. I'm not typically tempted to buy from others on social media to begin with, but sometimes I am. And I will say Letitia is constantly tempting me. But I'm going to stand firm and not be tempted. She knows what I'm talking about. But I hope if you've set goals for this year, we are almost coming up to the end of January, that you are still standing firm with your goals and objectives for 2019. I am doing very well with mine. Well, yes, I would say I'm doing well with them. The one was kind of put on standstill, but it's going to get going back up this week. So next week we will probably not be knitting in my stitch with me. Or yeah, I got to get used to not calling it a stitch with me. We will probably not be knitting in my knit with me, so in my craft with me. So if you are doing the same thing as I am, be prepared for switching it up, and we'll probably be doing some stitching. But I'm not going to do it where you see my stitching. I'm probably going to do it similar to this, so it's more of a casual conversation, because that seems to be really popular. So let me know in the comments if you are comfortable with that and if you like that, because that's most likely what we're going to do. And hopefully, yeah. But with going back to the schooling and everything, I know people were like saying, make sure you take time to do your crafts and everything. Don't worry. I will definitely make time for my crafts. I am always ensuring that I get stitching and knitting time in. And I really don't expect a lot of time to be lost on those things. If anything, a few hours a week. But in the grand scheme of things, that's not very much, seeing that I stitch and knit a heck of a lot of time throughout the week. Don't forget that all of my patterns are available in my Etsy store, Ginger Gerald Designs. My new pattern from the third part of Stories of the North is available as a PDF or a printed pattern I will send to you. Don't forget that all of my patterns are available either as a printed or a PDF pattern. And to make sure you follow me on Instagram as Ginger Gerald Designs for the shop and Ginger Gerald Stitcher for my personal stitching, crafting, knitting related entries. I'm really Instagram, if you really want to follow me and follow what I do, Instagram is the place to do it because that's where I am the most active. Facebook, not so much. Just not a Facebook person anymore. So, there we go. We're going to finish this row, and then I think we're going to call it quits for the day. And then I'm going to move on to some stitching. And I have no idea what I'm going to stitch yet today, so I do plan on doing some, while I'm going to be doing homework Saturday, the rest of the weekend I will be doing lots of crafting, and I may be making another video for Monday, so be on the lookout for that. It might be a diamond painting video, so I'm feeling the urge to pull out my diamond painting again. Don't be hating. So I'm thinking about doing that, and we'll see how that goes. So if you're interested, chime in on Monday, and I will hopefully have my diamond painting video up. And if you have any questions for me, comments, or topics that you'd like to hear my opinions on, yes, my opinions, feel free to put them in the comments. I'd love to hear from you because that way it gives me something to talk about in these episodes. Because I'd rather do something like this than do a tag or a, you know, one of those like answer question type things. That's not really my, while some of them I will do just because I think they're fun and they're informative, I'm not into doing a whole bunch of them. So with that, I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Have lots of time for your stitching and knitting and diamond painting and any other craft that you may be up to. And until we meet again, don't forget to always be creative.